Hello everybody and welcome back to another video, and that's right, Lane Hutson is a Montreal Canadian for the next 9 years. He signs an 8-year, $8.85 million contract that makes him a Montreal Canadian until 2034. So yeah, that's it's just absolutely great value, just like outstanding work by Ken Hughes, considering what, all of the rumors that have been going around about this contract extension and all of this shit. And like it's kind of like I've been talking about it in my previous videos. Like it's pretty clear to tell that like a lot of what has been going around is a lot of just trying to add salt into the wounds, of like, he hasn't signed yet and just people want clicks or whatever and just saying whatever. And, ever since Lane Hutson's dad came out and, talked about his Olympic stuff and all of that, like the speculation has always been about like, oh, like his dad's involved in this and whatever. And I'm sure that's to an extent true. I mean, like Lane is only, 22, 23 or whatever. Like he's not exactly, an adult. I mean, like he literally is, but like he's still kind of, like this is the first time he's ever had to make a negotiation like this, I'm sure, and stuff like that. So I'm sure he was involved at least to a certain extent, and there's no problem with that really. It's just like people were speculating it like maybe he's trying to drive for more money or whatever, but I think it's pretty clear to say now that a lot of what has been going around is mostly just fluff and just like speculation. So it's really good to see, both as a fan's perspective and for the team, that he was able to get that deal done. I think the biggest thing to look at there, I think, is just like the way that he's been playing through 3 games. I think, at least for me, it seems pretty clear that it's kind of been weighing on him a little bit, just kind of like, just like hanging over the team as a whole, just like if this is getting done and all the talk that's been going on around it. And I'm sure they've like, put effort in to try to like keep it kind of quiet as to like what's going on with the deal, like previous to it getting done. So I think for Lane, it's good that this deal got done when it did, so he can kind of get back to doing what he wants to do, which is playing hockey, all that kind of stuff, and not having to worry about it. But as for the number, like 8.85, like that's absolutely amazing value for the Canadians. It seems like the way that it's broken down gives Lane Hutson a ton of like front heavy salary bonuses and that kind of stuff, which I guess I'm not an expert on like the money and all that kind of stuff, but it seems like the front end salary bonuses are good for evading like the tax in Canada, like a lot of the like tax heavy in Montreal, just Canada in general. So I think making a lot of the money of the contract being salary bonuses as opposed to actual salary kind of gets around the like the heavy income tax kind of stuff in Canada, so it gives him more money overall. And I think more money overall, when compared to guys like Lacombe and Luke Hughes, who recently also signed deals for a larger AAV. So it's kind of just a win-win for everybody. I mean, like the Canadians get Lane Hutson in salary cap terms for under 9 million, and Lane Hutson gets to keep a larger percentage of that money than some other guys do, just based off the way the contract works. So and again, I'm sure, I don't know Lane Hutson obviously, but I'm sure he's the type of guy who's just like, he just wants it to get paid what he's worth, and just whatever he gets is it's good with him as long as he gets to play hockey, that kind of thing. That's kind of the way it seems anyway from what we've seen of him so far. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the team that this is able to get done, and like just amazing value again. Like it just sets us up really well for the future. Pretty much like still Dobson being our number one guy in terms of salary, and not having a single guy on our team. Now that we've shipped off Carey Price, now we don't have a single guy on our team making more than 9.5. So, and that just sets us up so well for the future. We've got pretty much our entire core of guys is locked in until 2030 at least. With like the Caulfield, Suzuki, those contracts coming up in 2030. That's still another 4 or 5 years away. So we're doing pretty well in terms of that. Obviously, I think the next guy to look at is going to be Ivan Demidov, and what he's going to look for in terms of salary. But I think we'll have time to figure that thing out. So yeah, so I think just amazing value for the team. It's really good just to have that, off everybody's, minds, just that's settled, it's done. I think Lane, I don't know if he'll admit it, but I think it has maybe held him back so far this year. So I think it'll be good to see him kind of like with that off of his back a little bit, just be able to kind of play more free, get back to kind of the way that he was playing at the end of last year and the playoffs and that kind of stuff. So that'll be good to see. We also saw in practice today, they had like a morning skate or whatever today, and like the entire team, mobbed him like it was I think Martin St. Louis said something about like it was like an overtime goal celebration. Everybody on the ice just mobbing Lane Hutson, congratulating him for getting his contract signed, and it's just like stuff like that is just like you look at that and it's like this team just has an unbelievable bond with each other that it's super awesome to see. Just like you don't really see that anywhere else. I mean, like guys will sign contracts and you'll see a little bit of like people maybe posting on social media about it, but like just like that video of everybody on the team just mobbing Lane Hutson and congratulating him, giving him like the head rubs and all that kind of stuff to congratulate him on his contract. I think if you watch that video, Cole Caulfield like mobs him initially and then comes back in to give him a hug another like 4 times after that. So it's just like it's really cool to see like how much these players all mean to each other, how much they care about each other and that kind of stuff. And it might not like translate to statistics or anything like that, but I think it goes a really long way in terms of how this team is able to perform on the ice. So, like I think just in anything really, like if you have that tight bond with the people you're working with, I think that can go a long way for in terms of success. So I think in terms of our team dynamic, I think we're set up really well. It's just like from the top down, like it's just been set up so well that all of these guys are just really tight with each other. They're a young group and that kind of helps too, but like everybody's just kind of tight knit. Everybody's just willing to work for each other, willing to congratulate each other, that kind of stuff. So it's really exciting to see. It's really awesome to see, like just a really heartwarming moment to just see everybody be so excited for his contract being signed and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be really good. And then like the best way to celebrate, as he said, as Lane said after his contract was signed, like the best way to celebrate is to score some goals in their home opener tomorrow. So that'll be exciting to watch, just to see how the guys play in front of their home ice. They've done so far so good in their 3-game road trip to start the year. So yeah, I'm looking for a big game out of Hutson on Tuesday to kind of celebrate properly, maybe get a goal, a couple points, that kind of thing. So it'll be good to see. But yeah, I just like, again, like a great value for Lane Hutson, and I think that's just like it just goes to show the way that this team has been set up, and the idea that like everybody's willing to take a team friendly deal because they want to play in Montreal, which is not something that's been said in previous years, especially not in the early 2020s, like with how the team was playing, like just the way that it's set up and all that kind of stuff. Like people are willing to take deals because they want to be here and they want to win a cup here. So that's huge. And what's also huge is that like the money that we're saving from guys taking friendly deals is going to be enough to get maybe another a second center if we need that, or somebody else to come in at the deadline to kind of give us that last boost if we're in that position come deadline time. So it just everything's looking really good in terms of the salary and stuff. And it sucks to see Carey Price go, but it's huge at this point now, like with the salary shaping up to have that cap freedom and that kind of stuff. So there's still, like, when you look at the salaries, there's still some guys who are making money they probably shouldn't be making, like Brendan Gallagher and Josh Anderson and Patrick Laine are all kind of on contracts that aren't exactly ideal, but they're all kind of coming to an end either this year or next year or something like that. So generally speaking, like our young core guys are in a really great spot, and I think we're set up really well for the future. So I think the only thing now to talk about is when we're going to extend Kent Hughes. I think there are some things that you can definitely criticize Kent Hughes about, the decisions that he's made and that kind of stuff in the time that he's been here. But I would say that it's been an overwhelmingly positive, couple of years with him being at the helm of the Canadiens, just making great, draft picks and signings, trades, all that kind of stuff. Like you can talk about David Reinbacher over Michkov or whatever, but like generally speaking, I think he's done a really great job, and I think that he's a guy that we're definitely going to want to keep around him and Jeff Gordon as well. I think both of those guys should probably be talking about extensions as well. Keep those guys around, but that remains to be seen. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of it. I'm really excited to see that deal go through. Looking for a big game from Hutson on Tuesday, but yeah, so I will see you guys on Tuesday for that game, and yeah, see you guys then.